about worldly pleasures, and we discussed, of course, Galatians chapter 5 verse 6, and talked about where we're at in Christ and who we are in Christ. I'd like to get into the meat, if I can, of the Bible study this morning. I'll just start with an extract. This is an extract from the Sydney Morning Herald. And if you live in New South Wales, you know the very popular newspaper that you get down in Sydney and around about the area, called the Sydney Morning Herald. If you look, and the writer goes on to say, if you look at the Bureau's population plot of today, you will see a figure close to 21,200,000 people live in Australia. Based on a kid, and that's the words used here, arriving every 1 minute and 56 seconds, and an immigrant joining us every 3 minutes and 5 seconds, we'll hit our next milestone in early 2010. Better start organising the party now, the writer says. This is how our 21 million splits up. 13.3% of us are over 65. 19.8% are under 15. 2.3% are of Aboriginal background. 22% were born overseas, of whom 1.6% speak Italian at home, 1.3% speak Greek at home, 1.1% speak Mandarin. Some 21% are smokers, 48% are overweight or obese. Hang on, let's rewind that. 48% are overweight or obese, and 85% live within 50 kilometres of the sea. How about that? That's the statistics. 48% of us are overweight or obese. Now, what we believe as Australians, this is our belief thinking, they've taken all this from the census. In the 2006 census, 30% of Australians either wrote no religion, 30% of Australians wrote down no religion, or left the space blank. A rise of 25% in 1996, so we've gone from 25% 1996 to 30% in 2006. So a lack of faith seems to be our fastest growing belief system. A lack of faith is our fastest growing belief system. Followed, would you guess, by Buddhism, up from 1.1% to 2.2% in 10 years. Followed up closely behind by Islam, up from 1.1 to 1.7%. The most popular religion is Catholic, but it's down from 27% down to 25.8%. And the Anglicans down from 22% down to 18.7%. So our fastest growing religion, if you want, is a lack of faith. Other Australian attitudes are revealed in the survey of 4,000 people conducted every 2 years by the Centre of Social Research at the Australian National University. And more than 3/4 of our adult population say they agree with these statements. So we're talking about 3/4, the majority of the Australian population who agree with these next statements. To be truly Australian, it is fairly important that you speak English. 92% agree with that. It also goes on to say the father should be as involved in the care of the children as the mother. There's 90% of people who agree with that. Amen. The woman should have right to choose whether or not she has an abortion. 87% of the population think that that's a good idea, that abortion should be left up to choice. The gap between those on high incomes and those on low incomes is too large. 84% of the people think that. Generally speaking, Australia is a better country than most other countries. Most Australians agree that 83% of us think that that's correct. Amen. When big business breaks the law, they often go unpunished, and 81% of Australians think that. And that's how Australians are in 2008. We want it all, we want it now, and we have no trouble coping when we get it. We want it all, we want it now, and we don't have any problems at all in coping when we can get it. Now the Bible tells us in Matthew chapter 11, if you can have a look at the scriptures, don't forget we're talking about a massive percentage of the Australian population, nearly half. You want to say half? Half the Australian population nearly is obese or overweight. Now that's pretty scary, isn't it? Matthew chapter 11 says, "But whereunto shall I liken this generation?" This is verse 16. It is like unto children sitting in the markets and calling unto their fellows, and saying, We have piped unto you, and ye have not danced. We have mourned unto you, and ye have not lamented. John came neither eating or drinking, and they say he has a devil. The Son of Man came eating and drinking. They say, Behold, the man is gluttonous, a wine-bibbler, a friend of publicans and sinners. But wisdom is justified of her children. Then began he to upbraid the cities wherein most of his mighty works were done, because they repented not. What I'll do is I'll leave it there, and I'm going to read out of the Message Bible. Remember, I spoke to you a couple of weeks about the Message Bible. It's just a Bible that's written in very plain, common English. I just want to read this again to you so you understand what we're talking about. We want it now, we want it all, and we've got no problems coping with when we get it. It says here, How can I account for this generation? The people have been like spoiled children whinging to their parents, all the parents said.
Amen.
You know what that means. We wanted to skip rope, and you were always too tired. We wanted to talk, but you were always too busy. John came fasting, and they called him crazy. I came feasting, and they called me a lush, a friend of the riffraff. Opinion polls don't count for much, do they? The proof of the pudding is in the eating. Next, Jesus let fly on the cities that he had worked the hardest, but whose people had responded the least, shrugging their shoulders and going their own way. Doom to you, he says, Chorazin, doom, Bethsaida. If Tyre and Sidon had seen half of the powerful miracles you have seen, they would have been on their knees in a minute. At judgment day, they'll get off easier compared to you. And Capernaum, with all your peacock strutting, you are going to end up in the abyss. If the people of Sodom had their chances, the city would still be around. At judgment day, they'll get off easier compared to you. Remember, we're talking about a society, a nation of people who want it all and want it now, and we have no trouble coping when we get it, no matter what it is. And think about the attitude and the relationship that we have with each other in our societies today. And I think it's coming home to roost. I'll read you an article. This is out of the Charisma magazine. I want you all to listen very well to it. This is Cara Davis. She's a medical practitioner, and she's also a person with high Christian principles. And her heading is, Why is the church so fat? Why is the church so fat? Have you noticed that we don't fit into the pews anymore? God's people are packing on the pounds, but His Word is clear about how we can reclaim our health. Look around the next time you're in a shopping mall or at church, and you'll notice right away that excessive body weight has become an epidemic in the United States and rightly in Australia as well. Obesity and overeating causes to contribute to more than a dozen illnesses, including heart disease, type 2 diabetes and arthritis. But obesity brings with it more than just sickness, it also brings death. Estimates indicate more than 400,000 deaths each year are attributed to improper diet, inadequate exercise. If current trends continue, by next year this number will exceed 500,000 people. Don't forget, this is in the United States alone. 500,000 people in the United States making obesity and being overweight the leading cause of preventable deaths, surpassing tobacco use. Obesity is a complex problem influenced by a number of factors ranging from the obvious, our sedentary lifestyles and lack of knowledge about food types and food preparation, to the complicated depression, anxiety and stress. Genetics play a role, but it is not responsible for this recent rapid increase because our genes haven't changed much in only 1 or 2 generations, you see. There is no sign that this epidemic is coming under control, despite an ever-increasing awareness of benefits maintaining a healthy weight. Between 1990 and 2000, the percentage of adults who were either overweight or obese rose from 60 to 64%, although some groups are affected more than others. African American women, for instance, have more obesity than women from other races. The disease and death attributed to excess body weight affects every segment